Then at least I know it's recording.
What was the other things over here? What if you have more? Forget.
Which is that. Share computers.
That'll be good. I don't know why you're not- Right, it is. There.
Did it twice.
Just leave it. Now, the only other thing I can say, there was a square that came up. You hit that, it goes big.
Oh, here.
Yeah, wherever that was, there.
This one, no, I don't know.
Is that big?
Right, but he has other stuff to show. So he knows how to get back to it.
Hit that thing, yeah. Go. See what? Then I will start. That's always.
Hey guys, we're gonna start, everybody's. And then I,
Kim, stand here so they can hear you.
Okay. Welcome to our meeting, our weekly meeting. We're glad so many people are here today to learn and love bugs. Kevin does pest management, and during his occupation, he thought it was important to educate customers about their pest. So he's an educator. He started taking photos, and that turned into a Facebook group called All Bugs Go to Heaven. So Kevin, sorry, see the catchy phrase? Let's not send them to heaven. They all go to him. So he's a photographer. This desire to educate and love of photography grew into a photo publication, educational programs with live animals, and contributing to science by leading or assisting with biological surveys. But this has expanded even more. And on to the next chapter for Kevin, doing conservation work, research, education, photography, all over the world with the help of his Facebook friends. So why are spiders feared? Why should we care about them? How many spiders do legs have? Do they have anything positive that they do? And how many species are there? Well, get ready to explore the incredible world of spiders through his close-up photography and information. And later we'll be going on a hike. And hopefully we'll have a newfound appreciation for spiders. And if you want to learn more, on the 17th, Kevin will be at Pelican Fest and Severson Dells. So it's all yours, Kevin.
All right. First off, thank you all for having me. And I know a lot of you heard me during the interview here. So some of it, there's going to be some things that are repeat. And I hope that my brain doesn't do the things that it can do sometimes and like say, oh, I already said that, and then not say something that, because you know what I'm saying. But anyway, so I do things a lot differently when it comes to these types of programs than a lot of people. I don't like to lecture people. I don't like to be lectured myself. I like conversations because we get much further with conversations. So while I'm going to be doing most of the talking, I don't want anyone to feel like they can't ask questions or that we can't have a conversation through this. And if I need to step away from the currently scheduled program to give information to any of you that you need today, that is what I'm going to do, because my goal is that you walk away from here being more knowledgeable about spiders and hopefully liking them a little bit more than you did, whether you like them or not now. So, so does anybody here have fears of spiders? Okay, or even hesitance? So understand, I used to be that person too. And by the way, while I'm talking, this was totally the goal, to have these photos cycling through as I'm up here talking to you. And once it gets to the end, it's about a 15-minute video. It will just loop and start over again. Hopefully, let me make sure that that's still set up that way, because I know there was. Okay. So now I can accurately say that it will loop. So what I want is I can't talk about all these spiders. I could spend 2 days just going through and telling you about the spiders that are on the video, let alone the benefits and the things that I came here to talk about. So what I want you to see is how diverse these animals are. These were all photographed in this region. So either Indiana, Illinois, or Kentucky, essentially, that these animals were photographed. And so I really, really want you to see that there are so many different species here, because this is the stuff. If any of these don't look familiar to you, then it sounds like you need to spend more time slowing down and looking a little closer, because they're out there. Some of these species may not be in this specific area based on different habitats. They have different needs, but essentially you're going to be able to find most of these or very, very similar species. Yes, you have a question?
Several of the spiders appear to have like 4 or 6 eyes.
Yes. So we'll get into, I'm going to talk a little bit about anatomy. So I'll get into that once we get there. And if I don't start talking, I have a section about eyes. We're talking about eyes. I don't even need to say that. Okay, so I do want to tell you a little bit about how I got to where I am today. So about 14 years ago, if somebody would have said, do you like spiders? I'd have said, heck no, and it would not have been that nice. I did not think very much of them. My grandmother had me believing that the bites are common and all these different things, and so I had all these fears of spiders. But I also had at least an uneasiness about most of arthropods because I didn't know anything about them, and so I started to, through getting a job in pest control, I had to learn about them now. And so through taking the time to learn about them, I was going, okay, why am I afraid of spiders? Everything I'm reading is saying that they're really beneficial and bites are rare. And so then I started going into Facebook groups that educate, where they're actually experts on the subject. And then I started seeing people say stuff about even brown recluse, saying things like, oh, how pretty. Oh, they're giving information that went against everything everything I knew about brown recluse, that they said they're not aggressive, or that bites aren't common, and all these things. I'm like, okay, these people are nuts. This is not what I've learned. And I'm going to stick around to see if I need to help these people out. Maybe somebody, blink twice if things are bad, because I'm like, what is wrong with these people? But then I stuck around and they could back up everything they said. And then I started realizing the value of information and backing up and having a reason to say the things that you say. And then if I heard something new piece of information, that I should always fact check it before I repeat it, because I started learning about the myths and the misinformation of these animals. And so I'm not sure how far this is through, but I am going to close this out just for now. I'm going to do a Q&A at the end as well. And then I'll play this video again so people can continue to see the diversity of these animals. So I apologize for anyone who is watching right now, because okay, I'm just going to do this. I think I figured it out now. I was getting myself a little turned around. So yeah. Everybody getting dizzy? Oh. Okay. Can this go full screen, like the picture? I feel like we did that. Ah, I'm so sorry, everybody. All right. I don't know if anyone wants a picture of that just because it's the title, because it's not going to be up there for very long.
Got it.
And it's the same as what's on my shirt. It is one of my favorite images. And it was really, really a tough image to get. And so it's 60 photos that make up this one image. So essentially, you take a picture of the closest thing to you, and then you change the focus just a little bit to get the next slice and the next slice and the next slice and the next slice. And then computer software puts it all together into one focused image so that you can see the eyes and the web and the full, detail of the legs and everything. And so it's newer technology. We couldn't do this back in the days of film when I first started learning photography, but it's definitely can make for a heck of a photograph when done well. But there's so much to it, and we're not here to talk about that. So if you're curious, come up and ask me, and I'll be happy to talk to you about how I did it. Okay. So we're gonna have a little bit of interaction here. And some of you have already heard me say some of the answers to these. So just by show of hands, true or false, you swallow several spiders in your sleep every year. Who believes that to be true? Okay. And there's, like, don't feel bad if you're wrong, because that's part of learning, and we do better if we're wrong and then learn the right answer anyway. So that's a good thing. So swallowing spiders in your sleep every year, it's not impossible. It's not impossible, but it is unlikely. Spiders have sensory organs called hair, like setae. So the hairs on their body they don't function the same way that ours do. Ours don't really do much of anything for us most of the time. But for them, that's how they taste and smell and hear, and everything but sight is gathered through the hairs on their body. And so vibrations they respond to, because vibrations mean potential harm. Most spiders have horrible eyesight, so all of the other senses are really, really important to them. So in order for you to swallow a spider in your sleep, you have to be somebody who sleeps really still, breathes pretty quiet, definitely doesn't snore, because your chest is going to vibrate and they're just going to run. So having a spider on you while you're sleeping is not impossible, but we move around and stuff like that so much that, like, when they start getting up close to our head, the breathing, all that stuff is going to deter them from wanting to be in our mouth. It happens. It's just not likely to happen to everyone. It's more likely that most people will never swallow a spider in their sleep than everybody swallows. I think the number was 8 spiders a year or something. There's a long story. It was actually an old myth that was brought back just to see if people would grab a hold of it, and they did. It was back in the days of chain emails. They put a list of 10 facts out to see if people would believe them. They were all false, and people started to, which I just think is so harmful, but we don't need to get into that. Okay, so spiders are aggressive animals and bites are fairly common. Who thinks that's true? Yeah, y'all heard me say it. Anybody at home raising their hand? No, okay. So larger spiders are more venomous. True or false? Okay. I saw all the no's. Now larger spiders might have a higher venom load because they have more venom and they're bigger and they can put out more venom. It's just most spiders, the venom is very mild and it's not medically significant to humans or even many animals that are much bigger than the spider itself. So, the venom is made to take down smaller animals. It's just there's some out there, the venom is a little bit, can be harmful to us. Our bodies don't handle it so well. But that's definitely, most spiders' venom is just not of concern. Okay. What's that? I'm sorry. Usually something around their size. Anything that is much bigger than they are, they're not going to even tussle with. So if you had like a wolf spider that is even one of the bigger wolf spiders, most wolf spiders are actually quite small. But like if it's one of the bigger wolf spider species with a leg span like that, they're not going to go after a mouse. A mouse is too big. Now they will take down prey sometimes twice their size, and they'll ambush. They'll kind of just wait and ambush them, and they'll dive on them and roll over and put their legs around them and hold on to them. But it's still nothing that's like huge. So
Other spiders.
Yeah, they'll eat other spiders. And in most cases, spiders are they're just opportunistic predators. So whether it's their brother or sister or some other species, if the opportunity arises, a lot of times they will take it. Not always. Like there's some spider species that are communal, that live together. There's some that are semi-communal, like brown recluse will live in colonies in close proximity to each other. I don't know that they call them colonies, don't repeat that, but they live together in groups at times. And I realized that by studying them in my shed in my backyard. And I started going, okay, well, if I keep them, because I do education on brown recluse, probably my biggest topic, but But like I started keeping them together in one container and just making sure that they had the ability to get away from each other a little bit, and that they had plenty of food. And I rarely have fatalities. So anyhow, I'm rambling. I'm getting off ADHD. This is fun. Okay. So all right. So most spiders can't survive long indoors. Who thinks that's true? Okay. So that is true, and I don't have a number for you, but most spiders need high humidity and certain habitats to be able to survive. And there are some spiders that specialize. There's spiders that go for ants. There's even spiders that look like ants. It's pretty wild. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We'll see some in a minute. So so yeah, most spiders can't survive long indoors. I mean, the heating and air alone keeps the humidity at a place that is not like the outdoors. And so most arthropods in general, once they come inside, they're dead within a short period of time due to a lack of food sources, water, humidity, harborage, all those kinds of things. So a lot of times people think just because they see them, oh God, what if it lays eggs? Even if it lays eggs, that doesn't mean the place is going to be infested because the house does not support them. So it's why there's a reason you see more of the wildlife you see outside than you see in your home. So, I mean, partly our houses keep it out, but don't get me wrong. Okay, so spider webs are always sticky. Who thinks spider webs are always sticky? Okay, so they're not. They've found that spiders make different types of silk, and orb weavers they don't just use one type of silk for their web. They have parts of their web that have silk that's sticky and parts that are not. There's some spiders that have silk that has really, really fine fibers that it's not sticky at all, but whatever insect gets on that silk, the spines and things on their legs start to catch these fibers, and it works really well just to catch them up, and then the spider can go do what they do to subdue them, which is usually, wrap them up or just go up and envenomate and wait for it to take effect. Okay. So 10 people lose limbs to brown recluse bites every year. How many people think that's true? How many people think one person loses a limb to a brown recluse bite every year? Okay, so here we'll get more into brown recluse here in a bit, but there are zero cases of lost limbs from a brown recluse in medical literature. 0 cases. But yet I've heard thousands of stories, but yet not one case. So there's a lot to the why behind that, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because then I will just get off on a tangent. So, okay, spiders can fly. Who thinks that's true? Okay, so everybody thinks that's false. They can fly. Not all spiders, and not through flapping any wings or anything like that, but it's called ballooning. And so we don't typically call it flying, we call it ballooning, but they do take to the skies. They release silk out of their bottom, and then static electricity in the air picks them up, and then the breeze carries them off. They used to think it was just the breeze that carried them, but then they realized that the static electric in the air was interacting with the silk and helping them to get lift, and then breeze carries them off, and they will sometimes travel hundreds of miles. So now with climate change, a lot of people, sometimes worry about different species moving north. One being the brown recluse, because you are pretty well out of their range. But a lot of people think as things warm up that they might move north and that sort of thing. Because they don't balloon, it would be unlikely that they would move very quickly. So it would take a very long time, thinking about how slow they move. In most cases, they have to physically move their way up here, unless someone were to release them in the environment and then they took hold at a sooner time than it would take them to actually traverse the land and find their way up here. So there are some spiders that don't balloon, and brown recluse are one of them. So round of applause there. But there's some, I mean, there are different reasons they believe that they balloon. So it may be to get to a safer place. It may be to get to better resources. It may be to even possibly get to better mating experiences or things like that. But it's usually smaller spiders that are doing it. You aren't going to see a spider this big flying through the air if they're going to be little things. So so you can commence breathing again. Okay, so okay, so spiders are dirty and spread disease. How many believe that to be true? Okay, that is false. Now that's not to say it's, if maybe they walked through something harmful and immediately walked onto something that you could come in contact with. Yeah, sure, maybe things could happen. But in general, spiders are not carrying diseases and spreading diseases. And spiders actually, most of them clean themselves. So it's actually pretty cute to watch a spider clean themselves. If any of you are on YouTube, check out my YouTube channel. I have a video of a jumping spider cleaning itself. It is pretty adorable. So if we have time, whenever I'm done yapping here, remind me and I'll bring up the video and we can watch some videos. Okay. So all spiders are hairy, true or false? Okay, that is false. Or I'm sorry, that is true. All spiders are hairy. So going back to the thing I said about, let me reiterate, that is a true statement. All right, so for everybody at home, all spiders are hairy. Okay, so all spiders, the hairs on their body, again, are sensory organs. And so here in a minute, I'm going to be bringing up a picture of a black widow, and you'd agree they're pretty shiny, right? They don't look very hairy, and they're super hairy. It's just they're super fine hairs, and our eyes can't see them. So once you see those hairs, it makes you realize just how important they are to them. Once understanding that they are sensory organs and help them see the world around them. Well, not see, but sense, the spidey senses. Okay, so all spiders are venomous, true or false? True. How many say true? One, two. Okay. How many say that say false, that not all spiders are venomous? Okay. So it is a false statement, but most spiders are venomous. Out of there's more than, I think it's around 55,000 known species, so maybe a little less than that, maybe 53,000 known species of spiders all over the world. And out of all of those, of the ones that are known, there's about 320 that are non-venomous. So most spiders truly are venomous, but not all. And they're in a family called Eulaboridae, and they are a type of orb weaver. And they're in a separate family from the typical orb weavers like these. And so they, instead of using venom, they have that type of fine silk I was telling you about. That's not silky. It's called cribellate silk, and they make their web. It's still an orb web out of that, and then whatever gets caught in there, once they get good and caught, they go and they just start wrapping them up. And then once they got them wrapped up, they just basically regurgitate digestive enzymes onto the outside of the silk, and it seeps in and liquefies their prey. And then they just use it kind of like a sippy cup and sip the liquid out. And so, and that's spiders don't eat a solid diet. They can only consume liquids. And so they basically just have an opening where their mouth would be. It's just a esophageal opening that leads to a sucking stomach. So if you can imagine one of those little things that you use to suck snot out of a baby's nose, it's kind of just pulling up their food, which is liquid. So a combination of venom, the venom kind of helps them as they use their fangs and stuff to macerate their prey and get it kind of moving around through the digestive enzymes and stuff. And then the liquid, once it turns to liquid, it just slurp it up. So it's pretty cool to watch. Maybe a little gruesome to some, but it is pretty neat to actually watch them go, and you can just see more liquid kind of being produced that that they're able to consume. So anyway, okay, so oh yeah, the daddy longlegs one. Did everybody hear me talk about that? So daddy longlegs are the most venomous spiders, but lack the ability to bite humans. So how many believe that's true? That means y'all heard me. Okay. I mean, that means you all are so smart. Why am I even here? So daddy longlegs, they, like I said before, I think most of you are here, but just in case, and for the people at home that are watching, daddy longlegs is a term that's used for 3 different types of animals. There's thousands of species within those groups of animals, but you have cellar spiders, you have crane flies, and you have harvestmen. And so harvestmen are what most people in this region would probably call a daddy long legs. And it's just that little oval body with really skinny long legs. And it seems to have like one body segment. And it's an arachnid, but it is not a spider. So they are related. They're just a little different. They're decomposers. They're, just kind of, they're scavengers. They just pick up little bits of things they find and consume it. And then just as such become part of the decomposition process. And then you have the cellar spiders, which are spiders. They do have venom, but their venom is not medically significant. So even if they were to bite, which would be incredibly rare, you still aren't going to have any kind of ill effects from their venom. And then the fly is the last one, the crane fly. The crane fly doesn't even have mouth parts that they use to feed with. So they are known to sometimes go to flowers for nectar and occasionally will lap up water. So they are occasionally pollinators, but they definitely are not venomous and don't bite. So in all cases, anything that someone would call a daddy long legs are not dangerous, whether they're venomous or not. So that's the true or false that took a bit to get through, but that I hope you guys all enjoyed that and got something out of it. So, okay, so benefits of spiders. This is really a short list, and a lot of it, like some of it is just kind of like almost like a subheading to it, but essentially they're pest control specialists. I think we all know that they eat bugs and other things. And so if it's something that is within their wheelhouse, it's small enough for them to take down, it's potentially going to be prey, but in most cases it's going to be an arthropod or something along those lines. In some cases you have some that specialize and go for very specific stuff. But in most cases, most of your spiders are generalist predators. And as you were seeing in the video, there's a lot of diversity in spiders, but there's also a lot of diversity in the habitats that they maintain essentially. And so you have spiders that are on the ground and they're actually actively hunting. You have ambush predators at the ground level that are hunting. You have them on flowers. You have them between trees and in covering the air. And so we have all these different areas covered by spiders. There are even spiders that spend almost their entire life underwater. That's pretty cool. We don't have them in the United States that I know of. I mean, like nobody's discovered them, but they're called diving bell spiders. So like even water's covered. And we have fishing spiders here in Illinois. So I think there's like 4 or 5 species in Illinois of fishing spiders, and they're all pretty phenomenal and one of my favorite animals, honestly. So, okay, so they're food sources for other animals. So without spiders, our birds could be in trouble. There's lots of amphibians and reptiles that will eat spiders. And then there's even, mammals and I mean, pretty well, but all of the animal groups are going to feed on spiders. There's somebody in there that's feeding on spiders. And so spiders are a huge food source, but then they also, there's other animals that utilize like their silk and things like that. So you have hummingbirds that use their silk for their nests and things. So, pretty awesome. See, I'm getting off on tangents. Okay, so food sources for other animals promote stronger pollinators. So how do they do that? The pollinators that aren't bubbling around so well, they get eaten up. And so it keeps stronger genes in the gene pool. And so when you have the genes from really strong flyers, really good bumbling bubblers, you're going to continue to have strong pollinators out there. So it is really important to have good predators out there. So we're really lucky to be human. That's all I can say. Because I mean, there's this, when you get out there and you really start to look, especially at the bug world, it's call of the wild every day out there. And, and when I see people spend top dollar to go to Africa to watch, lions and wild cats and things like that, and you've got way cooler stuff going on in your backyard if you take the time to look. Because if you see a spider catch a fish, that's pretty phenomenal. That's pretty awesome. And so, I had a spider outside my back door, a yellow garden spider like on my shirt here, that took out a lizard. It took out a 5-line skink. And so now, I mean, the skink did most of the work. It's a web building species, and they rely on their web for feeding. If you put a web building species into a container without the ability for them to make a web and start throwing food in, they a lot of times won't eat at all because that's how they work. Food gets caught, they take that stimuli, go to the point on the web, and then they do what they do. And so it changes things up. So, okay. Okay, inspiration for new materials and architectural designs. So through studying their silk, their silk is incredibly strong. And so through studying their silk, they're coming up with ways to make it artificially and find ways to use it for different materials, but also the way that they use their silk also has come into play with helping with architectural designs and making them stronger as well. So that's pretty cool. I don't know all of the ins and outs on it, but you know, the goal here is to wet your whistle a little bit and have you go, you know what, I want to learn more about that. I'm going to check that out later. Because like I said, I could go on. These are such amazing animals. Okay, so medical innovations through venom research. I mean, they believe that there's things that spider venom can do to help us potentially cure different types of cancer. So while I don't know a ton about the venom research in relation to medical innovations, it is happening. So if you are interested more in learning about those, you know, get out there and find the information, because I haven't read real deeply on it yet. I mean, there's too much to know, but it is pretty amazing to me that this substance that people fear so much, venom, is helping people, and it's all just about, you know, how we use it. You know, in general, most things I don't think are bad. It's the situations that are bad. So venom's bad when it is injected in our body and our body can't handle it. But when we find ways to utilize things differently, just like our cars, they're dangerous at times, but if we're careful and we try to do things right, you know, they're very helpful to us. So, okay. Pollinators. Pollinators? Yeah, I'm supposed to say like a quick question. Pollinators? Okay, so spiders are pollinators. They're not great pollinators. They're not even really notable pollinators, but yet I'm noting them anyway. So you have spiders that specifically go to flowers to hunt. There's even a species of spider that can change color based on the flower that it's on. And so by being on flowers, they are just kind of accidentally pollinating at times. So not great pollinators, not somebody, you know, when we're talking about pollination services that we're bringing up spiders first. They're really down at the bottom of the list. But it's still, we all have a role to play. Just, you know, and they're playing their role, and who's to say that there's little things we don't know about, because there's more that we don't know than what we do know about arthropods. So like, who's to say there isn't something special that's going on there with that relationship that we don't know? So I think it's an important thing to bring up that they do pollinate, even though it's small, they do. So and then ultimately benefits of spiders, they bring balance to ecosystems. So through all of the things they do, they're just keeping the numbers at a level where things, you know, you don't have too much getting eaten as far as plants, and you don't have, you know, too much. You just got to have that balance. So by keeping, you know, the weak ones down, they're you know, they're able to do their job, get fed, reproduce, make more, become food for birds and all kinds of things, all while also just keeping the balance, just making sure everybody has what they need essentially. So you have animal, if you don't have predators, you have all your plants getting eaten up, you know, and we need those plants. And so there's just this whole beautiful system. And I feel like my brain's going crazy right now. I'm not saying what I want to say here, but it's amazing how balanced ecosystems are when all of the things are present. Diversity is important. Diversity in spiders, diversity in insects, diversity in plants, and it starts with the plants. It really does. You get diverse plants, you bring diverse animals, and you're going to bring the pollinators and the decomposers and the predators that need those plants and need each other. So it's all in the eyes. Remember, I told you we were going to talk about the eyes. Okay, so it should move pretty quickly from here. So I hope you all are getting ready and excited about the hiking. Okay, so when it comes to identifying spiders, one of the first things that we look at, the most helpful thing is to look at the eyes. And so taxonomically speaking, we have different families of spiders. So you have the top left here is a jumping spider. Jumping spiders are the largest family of spiders with over 6,500 members worldwide. And they are kind of a gateway spider, if you will. People who are afraid of spiders, a lot of times will look at photos of a jumping spider and they kind of have a puppy dog appearance, and even are curious and will like look at you and tilt sideways and seem curious about people. Like no, they're like no other spider. And then they're the largest and most diverse family, and also incredibly small, most of them. So also, by the way, I did find a jumping spider outside today earlier, and I had to get a picture of. So remind me, and I'll show you. I didn't have time to throw it into anything here, but if you want to see it, just stop me. I've got it on my phone, and I'll show you the jumping spider that I photographed out there. Okay, so the second spider is a crab spider, and there's different types of crab spiders. You have the main crab spiders, which this one represents, and it's in a family called Tomisidae. And then you have running crab spiders, and then you have wall crab spiders, which are also sometimes called huntsmen. And so there's different spiders that have crab in the name, but like these are the true crab spiders, and they walk around like this, you know, with the legs out and all the fun stuff. And then number 3, does anybody know what that is? The third from the top left? That is a wolf spider. So in the US, the only spiders that carry babies on their back are wolf spiders. So if you see, yeah, those are babies. I got you'll see it. So, but the eyes is what we're focusing on here. Each one has a unique eye arrangement. And so if you can learn the eye arrangements, even of just the most common ones, or maybe the ones that interest you the most, you'll start to know when you see them. And so wolf spiders, jumping spiders are probably the 2 most well-known of the different eye arrangements. The last one up on top, anybody know what that is? It's an orb weaver, yes. So they do have a pretty unique eye arrangement. And the thing is with eye arrangement, the structure of the carapace or the cephalothorax, the head and the front end of the spider, the shape can be a little different. So the way the eyes sit may be a little different. And so looking at different species can help you to familiarize yourself with that eye arrangement, because it's not always perfectly going to be the same because of the shape of the spider's, the shape of the spider's head, if you will. Okay, so then the bottom left, does anybody have an idea what that might be? That is a fishing spider. So they're one of my favorites. And fishing spiders used to be classified with nursery web spiders, but a recent change, like in the last month, put them in their own family. That species of spider, that particular one, is the dark fishing spider, and it is the spider that helped me squash my fears of spiders. And I'll tell you a story. Okay, so like I'm you know, at this point I'm afraid of spiders. I don't, you know, but I'm getting interested, and I'm photographing them and doing things, and then I have a customer of mine who said, okay, I know you're photographing stuff and you keep saying you want them alive or whatever, so I've got you a live spider and it's huge. And so I said, okay, well, I'll go, I'll come get it, you know. And so I come and I get it, and he hands me a container that's like this big around, and like the spider's taking up the whole bottom, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I decide I'm going to get it out and hold it and photograph it, because, you know, like I'm reading all this stuff that spiders don't bite, that bites are uncommon, and they only bite when they get trapped against your skin in clothes, shoes, or bed. So I'm not snuggling in bed with it. I can see where my clothes are. My shoes are on, they can't get in there, so I'm good, right? So I put this spider in my hand, and it's just sitting there, and I'm, you know, like at first I'm shaking and sweating, and then that subsides, and I'm all of a sudden looking at this spider going, she's kind of pretty. I cannot believe this thing is in my hand. And I'm getting goosebumps right now because it was so life-changing for me. But then what happened next is this beautiful spider that I'm admiring and have my phone out, and as before I had my camera and stuff, and I'm taking pictures with my phone from all different angles. And then all of a sudden she decides to move, and I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt, and she runs up the shirt under my sleeve and is on my skin, under my shirt, on my chest right here. And so in my head, over and over again, I'm saying, not out loud, just in my brain, I'm going, oh my God, spider bites occur when trapped in clothes, shoes, or bed. We're here right now. You know, I'm like, ah. So what I did was I dropped down to one knee and I proposed. And no, I dropped down. So I dropped down to one knee, and I just kind of pulled out on my shirt to cause like a little puff of air to go in there. And she just dropped to the floor out of my shirt. And then I picked her up I took a couple more photos, and then I put her back in the container. And that's what happened. I didn't get bitten. I was a little bit terrified in the moment. But when it was all said and done, that was huge for me because I was fine. This is a big spider. This spider has fangs big enough to bite me without any problem. And all she did was like, she just wanted to get in a safe space away from me. And my chest was it to her. I'm a tree, and that was bark. You know, she was going behind the bark of the tree and found a safe place to be away from my scary hand. And to me, that's just a very,
Ignore them.
oh, just tell me.
You see admin, push admin.
Yes, okay. If I don't see it, just say, Kevin. All right, I'm glad you're with us now. I was the one who was stopping you from being in here. Yeah. Not on purpose though. Okay, so the third one on the bottom, I'm sorry, the second one, the middle one on the bottom, that one has a unique eye arrangement that is actually quite similar to a brown recluse. This is not a brown recluse, and it was very intentional for me to put this on here. These are not super common, but they can be found here. They're usually found in conjunction to structures, though. They're not a native species, but they've kind of found their way around, and so like they could be found in a home. They're not of any concern, but they're called spitting spiders. So so basically, you know, they are a little rude. No, I'm kidding. So that they actually can shoot a silk-like substance from their fangs that helps them to subdue prey. There may be trace amounts of venom in it. At one time they believe the venom could take effect. The more recent studies would suggest that the venom, if there's trace amounts of venom, it's not really doing anything. It's really just the stickiness of what they're shooting out. But essentially they have horrible eyesight, and they feel with their front legs. And once they feel vibrations that say this is probably prey, they shoot out in a zigzag. And then their prey either sticks to the surface, sticks to themselves, but they start to get stuck. And then once they are in a place where the spider can go in and envenomate, then they move in. So incredibly fascinating spider species, something that spits a zigzag of like this sticky silk-like substance out of their fangs, not the backside, but their fangs. There's no other spider like it. But in parts of the country, they're much more prevalent, and it overlaps where brown recluse are found. And so if you look at their eye arrangement, and because a lot of people are starting to learn that there's more to look at than just the fiddle. So if they go, oh, that's the eye arrangement, I don't see the fiddle, but that's a brown recluse. It's not. They actually have a really high dome to their carapace, whereas a brown recluse, they're really flat. So theirs just kind of comes up in a big tall dome, and the second you see that, and there's 3 pairs of eyes, you know it's a spitting spider. And last one, who knows what that is? Black widow. So, and black widows are cobweb spiders. So the common house spider, the one that the common name is actually a common house spider. There's lots of house spiders that are common, but the common house spider is in the same family as the widows. There's a group called false widows. And then there's other really cool ones. These are just cobweb spiders. There's so many, and most of them are found outdoors, and you find them on plants and things like that. And that some of the most beautiful spiders when you really get in there and start looking, but you got to get in there and look. They're not going to find their way to you. The spiders that most people know about are the ones that got in under their door. And that's what I thought too, you know, and when I got out into nature and saw it for myself and just saw this beautiful diversity out there, and I'm like, holy crud, what was I doing? What have I doing all these years? So, okay. So we're going to use this slide here for multiple purposes. So we're going to talk a little bit about brown recluse. They're not present up here, but it's still important that you know how to identify them because they can stow away. And so somebody moving from an area where they do exist could move here. And because they do well in structures, that's why there's so much panic about them. When, like in their native environment, they're not as near as prevalent as they can be in homes. They don't like super moist environments, and it's odd because they live in the Midwest where there's lots of humidity and all this stuff, but they find places to inhabit that get them away from most of the elements most of the time. Not only are they reclusive, but they kind of want to be away from the rain and the water and the wet, and that's why they do really well in walls and attics. And so that's why they're partly considered medically significant. So. Anyhow, so identification, we were talking about eyes being the important kind of first identifier. So you can see that bottom left picture there has their eye arrangement. It's 6 eyes, so it's 3 pairs. And then I know what people usually say is, I'm not getting close enough to look at the eyes. Well, you don't have to, because we have phones in our pockets now, and they have some pretty good cameras on them. And I've taken pictures of spiders from a standing position with my phone just at kind of waist level and shooting straight down at the ground at a spider, and I've been able to see eye arrangements on all kinds of spiders. So, okay, so I'm just going to come over to the screen here. So if you look from here, there's 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here.
Oh.
And then if you look from the top, 2.
Yeah.
But one of the eyes is more dark and one is more clear. So, and even with some spiders, like some of the crab spiders, the direction the eyes are facing can help you identify the spider. So that's one of the things I want to get into a little bit more. Not just talking about brown recluse, but that's identification important and in general. So we know to look at the eyes, and then with brown recluse, they have uniform colored legs. So like when you're looking at spiders, usually people are trying to identify a spider based around, is it safe for me or not? Am I okay? They don't really care what it is. They care about what it's not. They want it to not be a brown recluse or black widow or whatever. They want to know they're safe and they're okay. And so one of the beautiful things about if you're trying to do that very thing, black widows are pretty easy to identify, but brown recluse, people have a lot of problems with, because it seems to me everything is a brown recluse these days. So if you see a spider and it has stripes or bands on its legs, you can rule out brown recluse right out the gate. You don't have to look at the eyes. If that is all you're worried about is, am I safe? Is it a medically significant spider? If it has bands or stripes on its legs, move on, you're good. So it's not only are you looking for certain things, you can rule out things really quickly by just simply knowing what to look for. And then on brown recluse, they have fine hairs on the legs, no spines. If you look at spiders, like that is one of the characteristics you want to look for. Everything matters, every detail matters, and every detail can get you to the answer you're looking for. So if you hone in on one detail and move on, then you may just get a very general bit of information about what you found because you didn't get enough information. So if you can, anytime you're identifying an animal, look for multiple traits, especially when we're talking about spiders and arthropods, because almost all arthropods have to be identified under a microscope, cannot be identified as species from a photograph. So, okay, so I'm gonna have to move this along quickly. I told you I wouldn't have a problem talking for an hour. Okay. So leg spines. I'm sure I can show you if you'd like to see examples of leg spines. Here in a little bit, I can show you some examples. But it's pretty obvious that they look much more spiky than like fine hairs that are close together. There are these like spikes that come out of the legs that are very obvious. But those are things we look for, on identification of certain species. Coloration matters, but like with brown recluse, coloration isn't always going to be the same. Depending on their diet, they can be different colors. And I've seen brown recluse that are green, purple, and then the typical coloration. This is typical, but if they're eating certain things, they'll have a purpley appearance to their abdomen and cephalothorax. One of my early photographs of brown recluse, when I first got my camera gear, like it was sometime within that first year, I got observation of the day on iNaturalist with the brown recluse, and it was because it had a purple sort of appearance to it. So anyway, super fascinating species. I know they terrify people, but I have worked with them for so long, and all of the things that I've done to antagonize these animals with my bare hands, I have never ever felt like they were going to even come close to harming me. And I don't do it because I'm brave. I do it because I'm educated. I truly, if I thought that harm would come to me, if I thought it was a 0.05% chance that they were going to bite me, I would not do the presentations that I do. And I've, for thousands and thousands, at least 50,000 people have seen me in person play with brown recluse at bug fests and different things, and never anything bad's happened. Now, there have been some close calls where something bad could have happened because of my actions, and they still didn't happen. So Anyway, okay. So I'm getting off on tangents as I do so well. L2 is leg number 2. So when we're looking at spiders, the length of the legs matters. So when we're talking about identification in general, kind of looking and saying like, how long is the first leg? How long is the second leg? Because sometimes that's part of the answer to your question. With brown recluse, leg 2 is longer than all other legs. And so that would be one thing. They also have a very kind of, the way that they sit at rest, this is kind of typical. A lot of times they're a little bit more scrunched in when they're like really, really in their hiding spot, and they're there. They're like, please don't see me. Please leave me alone. They bring their legs in even more. Like the name Loxosceles, which is the genus that brown recluse are in, means like bent leg. So it's because of the way that they sit. Okay, so the abdomen is uniform in color, but the heart mark can sometimes be present. So if the spider's really well fed and its abdomen's fatter than this one, you can see a little mark, and you can see it a little bit. It is up, towards where the abdomen connects to the front half there. There's like a little light mark here, or a dark mark there. That dark mark is the heart. And you can see the heartbeat. If you look really close to any spider, and if you can see the heart mark, you can see their heartbeat. And then I always leave this last because it's the first one everybody brings up, the violin or fiddle shape. So that is an important marking, but other spiders have it. There are muscle attachments that are happening under there that kind of give us like certain shapes, like the little stem there is like partly due to muscle attachments underneath. And then like there's 7 rows of hair, and there's pigmentation that make up the fiddle. So it's not just this fiddle. And you can see, if you look at that bottom photograph, you can see those 7 rows of hairs. That's one of the things you look for. Is it a brown recluse? 7 rows of hairs. Now, every spider in the genus Loxosceles is likely medically significant. But when we talk about medically significant spiders of America, this is the only one we tend to say is medically significant. There's 12 species of Loxosceles in America. Most of them are in desert environments and just don't seem to be connected to homes. And I believe that's a big part of why they don't call them medically significant. But if you see a spider that has the majority of these characteristics, especially the 6 eyes in the right placement with the carapace not being domed, and you see those 7 rows of hairs, things like that, they're, different species are going to differ some, so that you can't rely on everything, but the majority of them have a uniform abdomen, the majority of them don't have striped legs, and the majority of them have the 7 rows of hairs, and all of them have 6 eyes. So so if you see that stuff, like don't play with it, don't give it kisses, don't snuggle. But leave it alone, like spiders don't want to be in our space any more than most people want them in theirs. And so I'm just a little weird. I like them in my space sometimes. But essentially, let's look at, before I move on to the next one, I've kind of covered a little bit about anatomy in general, but more the brown recluse, but I just want to make sure that I get this. So the front half of the spider is called the prosoma or cephalothorax. Prosoma is the most current accepted term for that. But language is language. If you understand what I'm saying, that's all I really care about. I'm not the nitpicky type. So you can call it a head if you want. And then the abdomen is kind of the old term for the butt end. You can call it the butt too, and I'm good with that. But the new term is opistosoma. But essentially, the front end of the spider, the back end of the spider, they have 2 segments, unlike insects that have 3. They have 8 legs, which I think most people know. They have those 2 little short parts up there that are called pedipalps. And those work for different things. On males, it's part of how they reproduce. So they don't keep sperm in, or they store sperm in their abdomen, but they don't like connect the back end like a lot of animals do. A lot of insects and things, you see them, the abdomens kind of connect, and then more babies come somehow. But with them, what they do is they actually make a sperm web, and they release sperm onto the web, and then they draw it up into those little structures that look like tiny little legs. And then they usually have some kind of mating ritual, a dance or something they do for the female. And if they accept it, then they use that to insert into their their genitalia to be able to insert the sperm. So spiders do it weird. There's actually a funny video out there that is totally inappropriate, but ask me later if you want to see it. It's pretty funny on the subject. When you think of it in human terms, it's pretty funny. Okay, so we got pedipalps, we've got the eyes, and then, you know, it's when it comes to arthropods in general, we talk in pairs of legs. We don't say, you know, they have, like, usually they'll say a spider has 4 pairs of legs. But they don't say eight legs. And so L1 refers to the 2 front legs, and then L2, the second set of legs, and so on. So, but that's basic spider anatomy. We could get into all kinds of stuff, but we are already out of time because I'm just blah, blah, blah. And I hope you all are enjoying it though. Okay, so real quickly, I do want to get through these two. I think I've said enough for the most part about brown recluse, but you can ask questions and we'll get through whatever you need to on that. Black widows, these are the only medically significant spiders in the US. We have 3 species of black widow, and then, like I told you about, the 12 different types of Loxosceles, with brown recluse being the main one of concern. So black widows all are going to have the overall black shiny body, and they're going to have a red hourglass on the abdomen. The appearance of the hourglass can differ from species to species. Like the northern widow, which is what you would most likely see here, the 2 triangles of the hourglass don't typically connect. Sometimes they do though. So one of the things you look for is the width of both of the the triangles of the hourglass. So if they're about the same width, then it's going to be a northern if it's connected. And if it's wider at the anterior the posterior portion, so closer to the butt, if it's wider there, then it's going to be the southern widow, which is really common through, like, both of them are actually quite common through the eastern half of all of North America. Southern widow, probably you're not going to see many, if any, up here. I mean, I'm sure there probably could be some around, but the northern widow is the big one. When you get down into central and southern Illinois, you'll see both. But then you have the western widow, which is going to be west of the Rockies. But Texas has all 3. So, and you can find widows in every single state except for one, and I bet you can guess which state.
Alaska.
You got it. So, yep, they're in Hawaii. So jumping spiders, the one I was telling you about, they're so diverse. So here we have jumping spiders. And if you look in the top right and the bottom left corners, those are ant mimics. So they pretend to be ants. They walk on 6 legs and wave 2 legs around like they're antennae. And it's called Batesian mimicry, named after some guy named Bates. Basically what it means is that by looking like an ant, animals that would eat insects will still leave you alone because ants taste bad. And so most animals leave ants alone. And so because you look like an ant, you don't get eaten. There are spiders that are ant mimics that also will raid ant nests and stuff. Most of the jumping spiders, at least in the US, you don't see much of that behavior. It's a different type of mimicry, but we definitely see just them mimicking ants to be safe, essentially. And then the rest are all just, the reason I want to, because this is such a popular group of spiders, I wanted to have a slide that had a lot because they are incredibly diverse. All of these can be found around here. The bottom middle one was a new record for the state of Indiana. We found that at a BioBlitz 2 years ago. I've found personally probably 15 records for the state of Indiana, and then collectively with groups doing surveys and stuff, probably at this point, probably 25 or 30 new records for the state of Indiana. That does not make me amazing or special or anything. It just tells me that people aren't getting out there lurking and recording this stuff. You all could go outside. If people got more tuned into this and just got out there and started looking, you could find a new species. You could record a behavior never seen before. There's something that you could get out there and record, and if you just put it out there into the world, because we have the ability to do that now, something you do could inform the scientific community to further some kind of research or something. I mean, I photographed a beetle that was on milkweed, and every beetle scientist that saw it where I shared my observation, every single one said, "Did you plant that on the plant?" And I said, "No, I didn't," because they thought I was trying to, it was pretty pink milkweed, and it would look so cool, right? So they thought I took this beetle, a type of weevil, and put it on the flower. and it was actually their nectaring. And it was the first time that anyone had shared with those people anyway, documentation of them not feeding on sap flows off trees, which is what they normally go to. And that was really cool, you know, like that was years ago. And so that like in the early days, really getting into this, to have someone of science like reach out to this weirdo and say like, you captured something really cool. But that's something y'all can do too. So get out there and look. These are all such cool spiders. The one on the bottom right is called a dimorphic jumping spider. The males have two different color variations. One is black and it has like these three like tufts of hair that look kind of really punk rock and kind of cool. And then the other one is in the middle. That is the male of the species, has these cool little yellow boxing gloves and cool stripes on their legs and this kind of really neat gray coloration. The top middle one was one that was a bucket list thing, and I was having the worst day when I found that guy, and I had one of the best photo shoots with it. I've got some real fun photos with that one. The middle left is Dr. Sarah Rhodes, the author of Spiders of North America, that came out from Princeton University Press. That's her favorite spider. She doesn't pick favorites, but if she had to, she said that would be it. But that is a super common spider. And that's the female of the species. The male actually has, or actually the male's above. The male has a little orange mustache and the female is like white face. So with those spiders, if you see a tan jumping spider, you can actually tell with the naked eye if your eyesight's, you know, firing well. Mine these days is questionable, but anyway, you can actually tell the difference between male and
Can
female.
you tell us how you get such good photos? How do you make them sit still?
Oh, I don't show you those photos because they're not in the photo. Everybody asks me like, man, you get such good photos. I'm like, yeah, I don't show you the bad ones. You know, it really is. It's sometimes it's luck, but there is a lot to learning to stalk them a little bit, understanding their behaviors, trying to get them in places where they feel safe, but you get to still view them. When I'm photographing them, like in more of a studio type environment, I'll create these little divots in places where they think they're safe, but they're fully exposed, and then I get really good shots of them. But I don't usually chill them or do anything like that. I like them to be lively and normal and natural, and then I get photos of them being them. And so yeah, I enjoy it. Okay, wolf spiders. See all the babies? That is probably my most viral photo. Millions of people have seen it, and I think most of the people probably shared it with not so nice things to say, but it did bring a lot of attention to these animals, and in some cases, very positive attention. So every little bit helps. But again, look at the eye arrangement. We've got different species up here, but the eye arrangements are still going to be the same. And if you look at lots of photos of these spiders from different angles, you start to get a feel for kind of how the eyes sit on the head, where they would be. So if you see it from this angle, you still kind of know it's a wolf spider, that sort of thing. So the front view is really the best one. They've got two eyes that sit a little further back, the two big ones in the middle. Those are, since they're nighttime hunters, they're bigger. That helps them to see better at night. And then they have those four smaller eyes underneath those two big eyes, and it's just typical wolf spider arrangement. And they carry their babies on their back, like we talked about before. They also carry their egg sac with their attached to their abdomen. So whenever they do hatch, they come right out of the egg sac and move right up onto mama's back. Cool thing about wolf spiders, that they discovered that the babies, like if mom dies, a lot of times the babies won't survive because they won't drink water if she doesn't take them to it. So they found that even being really close to a water source, mom died, they didn't go to the water. But then they found if they took the dead mom's legs and put it into water, then they would go down. And because that's what the mom would go down to water and just kind of dip her front legs in, and then they'd go down and get water. And so just so cool. The more you learn. I mean, come on. All right. Oh, and that photo, at least 100. That was really, she was carrying a load. Yeah, like the full photo shoot is on All Bugs Go to Kevin on Facebook. If you type in Mama Wolf Spider, you'll probably find it, especially if you sort by my stuff, which you can do on Facebook if you know how to do that. But yeah, the side views will give you like a really good idea of just how massively loaded she was. And the fact that this is actually a focus stack. So that type of that software and multiple photos, everything has to be perfectly still. The camera has to be still on a tripod. The subject has to be still. Nothing can move in order to get those different images to be able to combine them. So the fact that I got that image is just a miracle. I got it into a container, into my house, onto a piece of black plexiglass, set up a bunch of lights around, and I think I had 3 lights and took this photo. And she just sat there the whole time. So
Exhausted mom.
yeah, no kidding. So, okay, so this is just like, I'm not going to go through and show like tons of spiders, like tons of all the spiders, but like these are just some other really common spiders. The bottom 3 are all orb weavers, but they're all 3 different families of orb weavers. So you have your long-jawed orb weavers. Males have those really long chelicerae fangs. So that the parts that are kind of curving out of the chelicerae and then the fangs kind of come back in. They are such cool spiders. The first time I ever saw one, I had already learned about them, and then I finally see the first one, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And now I see them everywhere. Look near water, and you'll if you look near lakes and streams and things, you find these spiders. They're really common. Euloborids, which are the non-venomous orb weavers, and then your typical orb weavers, which are really diverse. And then a fun orb weaver that I want to bring up. Has anybody heard of a bolus spider? Bolus. A bolus is, like back in the old Wild West days and things like that, they would throw that thing with balls, like a string with 2 balls on it, and it would like catch up the legs or whatever of an animal and keep them from able to run away. Essentially, that's what a bolus is. So a bolus spider basically releases a line of silk with a sticky ball at the end, and then it releases moth pheromones to attract moths that are in the area to their sticky ball. And because moths frequently get free themselves from spider webs because of their scales, this spider's sticky glue that it makes on that little ball, the moths cannot get away from. So they're basically saying, "Ooh, look at me, I'm a pretty girl. Come see me." And then a male moth comes in, and they're like, "Dinner," And so yeah, it's pretty. I know it's wrong, but it's a pretty unique way to hunt, and a spider that can mimic the pheromones of certain moths in the area. I just thought before I learned this stuff, I thought spiders are these animals, these just dark brown, black, furry things that were big and gross, and they crawled across the ground, and they ate bugs, but like that is basically my opinion. Even though I knew about the webbed ones, I just thought most of them were just doing boring stuff. And then you start learning about them and learning about the diving bell spider that lives most of its life underwater, and then the fishing spider. The fishing spider, okay, so it floats on water. The hairs on most spiders are hydrophobic, which allows them to float. And then their sensory organs again, remember that. So they can feel fish and aquatic bugs that are under the water. So they float on the water, and then whenever they sense a meal below them, they dive, and then the hydrophobic hairs on their abdomen, when they go under, pulls air. So air holds onto the abdomen. Their lungs are in the abdomen. They have 2 book lungs, so they can breathe underwater because of that air bubble, because of those hydrophobic hairs. So now they're underwater with an air bubble around their abdomen, holding on to an envenomating prey until it stops moving, and then they can resurface and do what they do and feed. And it's that little thing, and we can find multiple species in your backyards. You can find them here. So and the one fishing spider, yeah, I know. Okay, cobweb spiders. We talked about them a little bit. So questions. Do you have questions? I told you we're almost done. Does anybody have questions? Go ahead.
Repeat the question.
Okay, so what do I tell a person or a child who would see a spider on the wall? My first thing is to ask questions. Why are you afraid of the spider on the wall? Because I can tell you all kinds of stuff and none of it be what you need to hear. So if I know why you're afraid of the spider on the wall, well, then I can offer more information to kind of help you get to the next step of how to move past the point, get to the point where you understand you don't need to be afraid of it. I'm the type of person that if I see a spider on the wall and someone's like, "Oh my God," then I just go, "See the spider? See it not harming me?" Like, I will show people or I will, mess with them on the wall and watch them run around and try to go away from my finger or drop to the floor or whatever. All they're doing is trying to get safe. When I try to get them in my hands, they don't stay in my hands. People see, when they see with their own eyes, the opposite of what they think is going to happen is powerful. And that's why I do the brown recluse stuff that I do. I don't want to get bitten. I don't think I'm going to get bitten. If I do, I know why, and it's my fault. But like, I do it because I don't want you to do it. I just want you to see, if you see me doing it, like you can know if you saw it crawling on your floor or it's on your wall, that you're okay. If I can do this, you're okay from where you're standing. If you see it, doesn't matter where it is. If you see it, you're probably safe. So any other questions?
You say that spiders have poor vision, so what's the purpose of having such multiple eyes?
So if you notice, like a lot of spiders, their eyes are facing different directions. And if you learn about their hunting strategies, you'll find that their eyes are well suited to their hunting strategy. So spiders that see, like some of the spiders that like orb weavers see horribly, but they sense what's going on in their web through the hairs on their bodies. And they've got lines pulled taut with they have claws at the end of their legs. And so they have all these lines pulled tight, and then they can sense what's going on. So if something moves on the web, they know where they need to go. They don't need their eyes so much. But what it does help them do, most of what their eyes does is just help them detect light and shadow changes. So all of a sudden a big shadow moves in, something big that could hurt me is around, potentially could hurt me. So they'll freeze a lot of times, and then they'll seek shelter. A lot of times people will get worried because they move towards you. So you see a spider on the kitchen floor, they see the underside of your shoe or foot as a crack to hide in. They just knew something moved, it was big. And so you kind of move into an area, you stop now because you see a spider, and most people are like, oh God, okay, there's a spider. So they stop moving. All the spider knows is, okay, something moved, now it's not, there's a hiding place to get away from whatever big thing just moved. And you're the big thing, they just don't know it. So, I always tell people, if you see that happen, shuffle your feet or something, because then they'll go, oh, nope, we'll go this way. Because they don't want to tussle with a big animal like us. So.
You said that there was a violin shape on the brown recluse?
Yes.
I play viola, which is just a big violin, and I don't see that shape.
I hear that a lot. I think guitar sounds more fair, but yeah, I mean it's the best thing I think we have to compare it to, though. That's for sure. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being here.
Absolutely. So sorry that this went on like so much longer.
So if you want to see more or bring your friends, Saturday, go to the Pelican Fest, and you're on at 2:30, and then Severson Dells at 6:30.
I think my talk is at 1-ish.
Oh, 1?
I think it's 1, and then 2:30 is the hike.
Yes, that's good. So do that, and don't forget his Facebook. And now we're going to march outside to some things.
Did everybody, does anybody have like flashlights? I mean, phones can work too, but if you have flashlights, I say bring them.
Okay.
It's starting to get dark, and there is a trick if it gets dark enough where we can find wolf spiders with flashlights. So we're only going to go like around the outside of the library, probably check the edge of the grasslands. We're not going to get into the thick of things. I mean, if you want to, we can, but we're just going to see if we can find some spiders out there. So did you want me to stop sharing, like turn the